crimes than for their prizes. Some carried off a priesthood or the consulship as their spoil. Others won offices and influence in the imperial household. The hatred and fear they inspired worked universal havoc. Slaves were bribed against their masters, freedmen against their patrons, and if a man had no enemies, he was ruined by his friends. However, the period was not so utterly barren as to yield no examples of heroism. There were mothers who followed their sons, and wives their husbands into exile. One saw here a kinsman's courage, and there a son-in-law's devotion. Slaves obstinately faithful even on the rack, distinguished men bravely facing the utmost straits and matching in their end the famous deaths of older times. Besides these manifold disasters to mankind, there were portents in the sky and on the earth, thunderbolts and other premonitions of good and of evil, some doubtful, some obvious. Indeed, never has it been proved by such terrible disasters to Rome, or by such clear evidence, that Providence is concerned not with our peace of mind, but rather with vengeance for our sin. Before I commence my task, it seems best to go back and consider the state of affairs in the city, the temper of the armies, the condition of the provinces, and to determine the elements of strength and weakness in the different quarters of the Roman world. By this means we may see not only the actual course of events, which is largely governed by chance, but also why and how they occurred. The death of Nero, after the first outburst of joy with which it was greeted, soon aroused conflicting feelings, not only among the senators, the people, and the soldiers in the city, but also among the generals and their troops abroad. It had divulged a secret of state. An emperor could be made elsewhere than at Rome. Still, the Senate was satisfied. They had immediately taken advantage of their liberty, and were naturally emboldened against a prince who was new to the throne, and, moreover, absent. The highest class of the knights seconded the Senate's satisfaction. Respectable citizens who were attached as clients or freedmen to the great families, and had seen their patrons condemned or exiled, now revived their hopes. The lowest classes, who had grown familiar with the pleasures of the theatre and the circus, the most degraded of the slaves and Nero's favourites, who had squandered their property and lived on his discreditable bounty, all showed signs of depression and an eager greed for news. The troops in the city had long been inured to the allegiance of the Caesars, and it was more by the pressure of intrigue than of their own inclination that they came to desert Nero. They soon realized that the donation promised in Galba's name was not to be paid to them, and that peace would not, like war, offer opportunity for great services and rich rewards. Since they also saw that the new emperor's favour had been forestalled by the army which proclaimed him, they were ripe for revolution, and were further instigated by their rascally prefect Nymphidius Sabinus, who was plotting to be emperor himself. His design was, as a matter of fact, detected and quashed, but though the ringleader was removed, many of the troops still felt conscious of their treason, and could be heard commenting on Galba's senility and avarice. His austerity, a quality once admired and set high in soldiers' estimation, only annoyed troops whose contempt for the old methods of discipline had been fostered by 14 years of service under Nero. They had come to love the emperor's vices as much as they once reverenced their virtues in older days. Moreover, Galba had let fall a remark which augured well for Rome, though it spelt danger to himself. "I do not buy my soldiers," he said. "I select them." And indeed, as things then stood, his words sounded incongruous. Galba was old and ill. Of his 2 lieutenants, Titus Vinius was the vilest of men, and Cornelius Laco the laziest. Hated as he was for Vinius's crime,